Hi there, I'm Superman, and I fight for truth, justice, and the American way. While Bizarro fight for lies, corruption, and un-American shenanigans.
Which of you can point me to Carfax Abbey?
Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. So today we are going to have a look at the DC vs. Vampire Superman from McFarlane Toys. Another weird figure, another strange exclusive. We've been over this, yada yada yada, Todd has no plan.
Todd!
It doesn't matter. I saw this figure and I really liked it. And we're going to go ahead and ignore the fact that this is a Walmart exclusive, but I have managed to find this figure on the Todd McFarlane website, so it's no longer exclusive. I don't know what the deal is, but regardless, it's a figure that I really like. It's a figure that's not for everyone, of course. I mean, it's one of those strange hybrid figures where you just have Todd doing his Todd thing, merging a superhero with a vampire, which is something he's done on several other occasions. But this is one of those cases where I feel like it works. Now, I don't think it works every single time. Like recently he debuted a Robin vampirized figure. It was more specifically a Damian Wayne version, and that figure I didn't like at all. But in this case, I actually really liked what he did here. So again, we're not going to talk about all those rants on exclusivity and gold label and all that. Put that away and look at a good figure. So let's go ahead and start with the box. As usual, the box is nothing that special, except for that really pretty and shiny gold label, which is pretty much plastered on every single figure now, so it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but regardless, we got it, and it's pretty neat. Although, I'm looking a little closer at this box here, and I just noticed another little variation. Down here, we have an 85 with the Superman logo on it, so I guess we hit some sort of little anniversary there, so that's kind of neat. But anyhow, going on around, we have Superman, a little QR code for who knows what. I don't really care about QR codes, but there it is if you want it. Superman, DC vs. Vampires on this other side. On the back, really awesome portrait. I'm very glad that they're no longer doing photo shots of the figures. I mean, you already got the toy, so you know what it looks like. But then you got this artist rendition of the figure, which I think look really fantastic. They're really good for the trading cards, they're good for the box, and if you want to cut it up and have a little mini poster. And also you get a few more little story elements to this figure. I don't believe it's based on a particular comic, but we do see here he's got a little bite right on his neck, which I think is very neat. I have to imagine that in order for Superman to be bitten by a vampire, he'd have to be under the effects of kryptonite, and then that would allow for some vampire's fangs to actually sink into his Kryptonian skin. And also, that's a little detail that's translated onto the figure itself. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and have a look. So as the story goes for, I believe, all the DC vs. Vampires figures that we've seen thus far, it's a recycled body that you've seen before with a unique head sculpt on top. So let's go ahead and start there. And here we have a very stone-looking Superman. It looks like he's made of rock or something. I'm not too sure what they were aiming for with this paint job, but hell, I really like it. It feels very Nosferatu to me. He feels very deprived of blood, even though it looks like he just chowed down on a victim when you look into his mouth there. I really love the blood paint apps here, dripping on down from the fangs. And then also over here, as we were talking about with the box art, we have a little bit of a bite. It doesn't go quite in a full circle like I wish it would have, but that's something that can be corrected. But you can very distinctly see there are two little punctures from the fangs, and then they're leaking on down his neck, and I think that is really nice. Also very cool is the eye work. If I can get that in some good light right here, which is not good for a vampire, but it's a toy, and we need to get a closer look. So we have two red eyes, but not only that, but you can see there's almost this red airbrushing going around, like he just used a little bit of laser vision on a victim or something like that. So not only is he vampirized, but he maintains his Kryptonian powers, which, of course, is very cool. What a combination. Would love to see that in action. Up to the hair sculpt, everything is very Clark Kent looking. You got the little cowlick come on down, a little swooshy to the side, and it looks like it's done in this very deep midnight blue, kind of like the suit. A slight wash on it to bring out a few little highlights, which I really appreciate. He also has 2 pointy ears, which I wanted to mention. Again, very vampire looking, so you gotta appreciate that. Same can be said about the neck, also with that stony paintwork, looking very wrinkled and gross and decayed, and I think that looks very good. If there's one thing that Todd McFarlane gets right, admittedly amongst a few other things, he does a very good job with zombie or decrepit or horror figures, and it definitely translates over here to this vampirized Superman, and I think he looks absolutely fantastic up here. As for the rest of the body, that can also be said. I think this is very good reuse. I'm not totally sure which Superman this body is recycled from. You can remind me in the comments, although it has been reused again lately for the classic version, which I pass on because I already have my definitive classic version, at least until they, release a Christopher Reeve Superman that everyone really wants, but we're not getting. But let's not talk about that right now. But as for this body, I really like this reuse. Everything is totally repainted, and for me, as long as the articulation's good, the body shape is right, and the colors are redone, I have absolutely no issue with reuse at all. And here, it looks absolutely stellar. Kind of like the hair, we have this midnight blue prevailing throughout the suit. Definitely not black, but I really do like that color choice. I think it looks gorgeous. And also, when we come up here to the emblem on the chest, it's also in that blue, but you also have the red pumping out the hope symbol, or the S symbol, depending on what movie you've watched. So that's really nice. Also down here at the waist, you have the same insignia once again, just done in the blue with the silver belt, and I think that looks excellent. Black diaper over there. Off to the arms, we have a few bracers. Kind of reminds me of Wonder Woman a little bit, so that's kind of cool. We also have these very gnarly looking clawing or reaching hands, looking absolutely nasty as they should, with these very long spindly fingernails. Again, very Nosferatu looking. I really like how we're going with the more horror and scary looking vampires as opposed to gross, shiny ones. Looking at you, Twilight. But anyways, moving on down. More legs, pretty much as we expect. Off to the boots. At the top, we have some cuffs, very similar to what we saw on the wrist, done in a very good gunmetal silver, if you'd like to call it that. And yeah, we got some toe articulation down there. Everything's looking very good. It's an excellent base body for a generic Superman, and same can be said for this vampirized variant, so that's really great to see. Another last great thing to talk about here is the cape, which, as you know, if you've been on this channel for a while, I'm not a huge fan of solid capes, but in this case, I actually quite enjoy it. I still have a soft goods substitute coming in the mail, but I still think this is a very good cape. First of all, it has a very good generic swooshy motion, which I think would work in any pose for this figure. I don't feel like this would determine he'd have to be locked in a certain specific stance, whether he's standing or flying, kind of like the Hush Batman, for example. In this case, I feel like it's big enough that it suggests movement, but not so big that it restrains the articulation or anything like that. It looks very good whether he's idle or moving around or doing anything that you want. Yeah, I just think it's an excellent sculpt, and even though I plan on replacing it at the end of the day for a solid goods cape, I think it's executed very well, so really no complaints about this figure. He's solid all the way around. Actually, one last thing I wanted to mention before we move on, I almost forgot, is my Superman here does have a little QC issue. You can see right here, there's almost this glue dribble going off to the side, which honestly doesn't bug me too much. I mean, I went through the whole review without even noticing it, so not a big deal. And also, I'm a customizer. I can go ahead, I could paint in some blood right there, and no one would be any the wiser. So, not a huge deal, but figured I'd go ahead and mention that. Off to accessories, we have the generic, plain Jane DC Multiverse figure stand, which is very boring, said and done. We all know why we are not huge fans of these. We wish that they'd have them embossed with unique logos pertaining to each figure that we get, but alas, not the case for this vampirized Batman. They've done it before with other figures, like the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Nightfall Batman, so I don't know why they wouldn't do it here. So some exclusives get the treatment, some don't. I don't know why, but regardless, it's a good stand. Peg it under his foot. He stands up. But why is it that this is a Superman and they didn't give him a flight stand? This did not come with him at all. But I still brought it in because, of course, it would be important to get him into some flight poses because it's a goddamn Kryptonian. You need that, right? Next, we have usual flashcard. with that same artwork we saw before in the back of the box. Superman, DC versus Vampires. Off to the back, we have a bio just for Superman, though. It's not specific to this vampire Superman, which is very unfortunate. Definitely something that Todd needs to work on, amongst many other things. Just giving unique bios for each character to put a little bit more love into them, especially when you're recycling the body and a whole bunch of other parts. Go the extra mile and give them a little bit more storytelling. You've created a new character. Why not tell us a little bit more about them? That's the excitement of a figure, the story behind it. But this is what we get. Here's the story of Superman. We also have a few more accessories in the form of 2 fists, which look very well sculpted. But one thing that I will say about these fists and the open hands, as great as they are, is, of course, they have the fingernails, which I do enjoy, as I've said. But one thing I would have loved them to do is paint them in black or something like that. Give them a little bit more dimension, just add a little extra detail to this figure. I think it's definitely something I'm going to be doing myself with some marker work or whatever. Let's go ahead and do a little swap, just to show you how easy it is to do that. There we go. Removing one of the open hands on the right. Get a fist. Put it right on. And there we go. Big old fist. Doing some vampire punches. Just like so. He's looking really great. I kind of wish he had, like, energy effects that we've kind of been seeing with the Flash figures. I don't know, because vampires have telekinetic powers and things of that nature. So it would have been neat if he had, like, red, like, emissive glow coming out of his arms, something like that, but not a huge deal. I mean, we saw that with the Green Lantern vampirized figure, which I'm on the fence about because they didn't do a whole lot of repainting with the body, so it's not quite as exciting, aside from the effects and the head sculpt. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a big think about that, but until then, here's another really awesome vampire for the shelf. If you've held the space body before on any other Superman, then there's really no other surprises, but this is the first time I've ever had it, and honestly, I think this is one of the better Superman molds that they've ever done. So anyway, starting up here at the head, we have actually a fair amount of tilt, give him that feral-looking grr going on, so that's really nice. Do a full Exorcist. Do a little bit down, not as much back as I'd prefer. That's something that could be accomplished with maybe trimming away a little bit of the hair or popping the head off, then doing a little bit of a trench in the back of the neck. So there are little mods that you could do to fix that up if you wish, so it could be looking straightforward. I definitely want to be doing that, especially when I have the custom cape on. As for arms, it's hard to make out, but there is a little bit of a butterfly. Sometimes they're so well hidden on these figures, I forgot to mention them, so it's another credit towards these Todd McFarlane figures. Comes up to past 90, which is great. Bicep swivel. That's one thing I don't love. I mean, I don't know what you could do to avoid it. Sometimes when you do the bicep swivel and you want to keep the arm down here, you'll notice that the arm bulks in the back, so it pushes the arm out, so it V's out rather than going straight down. But then again, it's a vampire Superman, so he's supposed to look a little bit crooked and weird, so I guess that's totally okay. As for the elbows, they double joint. I feel like the sculpt looks a little bit clunky over here. I wish they could have made that a little more seamless, but in most poses, not too noticeable. Like, put it back there, and you're not going to notice it or be any the wiser, so not a huge deal. As for wrists, usual McFarlane wrists, they go in, out, up, down, swivel, whatever it is your pleasure. Down to the torso, we have a ball joint underneath the pecs. So combine that with a ball joint that he also has down here at the waist. You can tilt side to side. A little bit of crunch forward, really great crunch back, so that compensates a little more for the lack of head articulation if you want him flying forward and you don't want to do any mods, so there's that if you want it. As for legs, full splits. Of course, we have the soft diaper there, so it allows for a lot more movement. Goes forward to about 90, it looks like. V's out a little bit going back. It doesn't go much further than that, though. As for the knees, they come pretty far back, definitely past 90. Push that back over. And then there's no swivel in the calf or the thigh, unfortunately, which is pretty expected from McFarlane figures, but you do have a swivel in the ankle, which we don't see all the time, so that's pretty refreshing. We have an excellent amount back, pretty good amount forward. As my fridge starts to scream over there, I apologize for that. And then we also have our toe articulation, which is pretty seamless. I really like the way that moves. That's very nice. And then, of course, you have your very awesome rocker in there. So, yeah, it's a figure that's not for everyone. I mean, that's what can be said about most Todd McFarlane exclusives. But as for this one, it's for me. I really like this one. Very cool. Now let's do some size comparisons where you have our vampirized Superman alongside as many other variants from the McFarlane catalog. All of them are customized to some degree, but we at least have the base bodies to compare them with. Over here we have the DC Rebirth Bizarro, customized to look like his Six Flags counterpart. Really missed that ride in purple. It looked really badass. Then we also have our classic Superman over here, and this is a custom job where it's basically, I believe, the Hush body with the Rebirth neck and head with the soft goods cape. Then over here we have, it's such a long goddamn name. We've talked about it a million times. It's the Superman Unchained Armor Patina Edition, Gold Label, limited with 10,000 pieces, trading card not actually signed by Todd McFarlane, action figure. So there we go, with some extra patina done by myself for the forearms and the feet, because he really needed that. Don't know why it wasn't there to begin with, but we're not going to yell at him anymore. Now he looks good, so we're fine. We can call a truce, we're good, we're buddies now. I can display this figure without shame now. Lastly, here he is beside our highly customized vampirized Batman, who we've done a whole video on before, so if you want to see that process in action, you can absolutely go ahead and check that out. He has some custom wired wings, which I think are really awesome, a whole bunch of chains and stuff like that, just a few more things that make him feel more exclusive, if you get what I mean, with a whole lot of blood and everything. I don't think I'm going to be doing the same thing over here with Superman. For me, he's like a new vampire, so he's not covered in too much blood, so probably going to leave him as is. But all that being said, these two look really cool together. Now, I don't really plan on getting the other vampirized variants. It's more a matter of one at a time. Which ones do I think are worth getting? Like, these two are awesome. Green Lantern, on the fence. As for the Joker and Robin, don't really care for them much. So I'm going to have to think about those. But I don't think I'm going to be doing the completionist route for this particular tangent, this offshoot of McFarlane figures. But of course, every review must end with the Star Wars Black Series, Mecha-Muck!
Ah, another child of the night. What music you make. Oh, you know what? I'm not even doing this anymore. We've had enough vampires on this channel. Can we get, like, more werewolves or something? Or, like,
whoa,
I don't know,
wait,
fish
Muck, we're doing a skit. Where are you
something
going?
to change up the mold a little bit? I'm getting really bored of these exclusives. Like, we need more, I don't know, robots? Can we get robots and zombies
we can't
or
do that.
something?
We don't have the budget for that.
No, we
How
don't
many
have enough
times do I need to
skeletons,
tell you?
too. They need to change up their content. I'm getting really bored of what we're doing here. Like, no, go away. Get out of my way.
Where the hell is he going? Editor!
It appears as though he is tired of your shit.
Editor, do something.
I can't take it.
I am not a tangible being. What do you expect me to do?
Alright, well, you're no help then. Alright, so what are we supposed to do?
I suggest looking elsewhere for a mascot. Perhaps from the Mattel Jurassic World line?
Crap. Alright, let me go find him. He's somewhere. He's around here somewhere. Just keep looking for him. Did he take the Mythic Legion's Gold Knight with him, too?
Yes, and the bendy figure Voldemort you haven't touched since the Plagueis tutorial.
I hate being short-staffed. And that's about all there is to say for this vampirized Superman. Again, it's a figure that's not for anyone, nor is this line. But for me, being a huge horror buff, and being someone who's leaning more towards vampire just a little bit more every day, these are figures that work really well for me, at least the Superman and Batman. As for the others, I could probably do a firm pass, but then again, I'm a collector, that could change at any moment. It's pretty nice that McFarlane, with as many complaints as I have about the line, they're still doing these offshoot tangent lines, like vampirized, then you got the sketch versions, then you got some glow-in-the-dark, and it's just a whole lot of different types of figures, but then again, that's kind of the fun thing, that at least he is experimenting to see what works. It's nice that we're getting a little bit of a change here and there. I mean, maybe it's a little too much change for the average collector, but every now and then we get a figure that has no business existing, but once we get it in our hands, it makes us pretty happy. And in this case, that's what this figure does for me. So honestly, I can't ask for any more. It's a solid figure, pretty affordable. I mean, it got it right off the McFarlane site, so it's for stock price. Can't really get mad about that at all. The accessories are fine. I don't think you really need it anymore. I mean, maybe that extra little something like the Batman came with a really big old vampire slaying axe, so it would have been nice if he had a weapon, or I don't know, kryptonite necklace or something like that, but just something to extra Superman him up. But that being said, as he stands, or flies rather, because we got him on a flight stand now, I think he's really great. And with that, that's pretty much all I gotta say. So if you enjoyed this review, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
Ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals. And subscribe.
This is the editor speaking, humbly reminding you to support the pod Patreon in the description to guarantee new content every single week.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.